The dog wouldn't stop staring at the door. Not the front door. The door to the basement. The one I'd painted over twice because the old green color reminded me of something I couldn't name. He sat there at 3:47 in the morning, his ears flat against his skull, making a sound I'd never heard from him before. Not a growl, not a whine. Something in between, like he was trying to warn me about something that hadn't happened yet. I'd been a veterinary technician for 23 years. I'd seen dogs do strange things. I'd watched them sense seizures before they started, sniff out cancers that 3 specialists missed, track down missing children in blizzards. But this was different. This was my dog. And he was looking at my basement's door like he'd just realized there was something behind it that shouldn't be there. The house was 112 years old. I knew because the tax records said so, and because every winter the floorboards groaned in the same places, and because the basement stairs had a dip in the middle that I'd memorized with my feet after all these years. I lived alone. Had been alone since my husband passed in 2014. Lung cancer. We caught it late. He was a smoker. I don't tell people that part because they always look at me like I should have stopped him, like love was supposed to be stronger than addiction. John had been a Navy SEAL. Not the kind you see in movies. The kind who fixed things. He was a demolition expert, which meant he spent his career figuring out how to blow things up safely so other people didn't have to. He never told me the details. I never asked. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, he'd wake up gripping the sheets so hard his knuckles went white, and I'd put my hand on his back and wait for him to remember where he was. He was the one who bought the land. All 17 acres of it. "We need space," he said. "Somewhere quiet." I thought he meant for retirement. I didn't realize until after he was gone that he meant somewhere he could sleep through the night. The dog was his. John found him at the shelter 3 months before the diagnosis. A German shepherd mixed with one ear that never stood up straight and a limp that came and went depending on the weather. "He's defective," the shelter volunteer said. "Been here almost a year. Nobody wants the broken ones." John looked at the dog. The dog looked at John, and John said, "He's not broken. He's just been waiting for someone who understands." We named him Hawkeye. Not because of any military connection, because he had this way of staring at you that made you feel like he could see right through whatever story you were telling yourself. Like he knew you were lying even when you didn't know you were lying. So when he sat in front of that basement door at 3:47 in the morning, I believed him. I opened the door slowly. The old hinges creaked. I'd been meaning to oil them for 2 years. A moth flew up from somewhere and hit my face. I swore under my breath. The stairs stretched down into darkness. The light switch had been broken since 2018. I'd been using a flashlight ever since. I didn't think about it until that moment. How I'd never bothered to fix it. How I'd let that one small thing stay broken for 3 full years. I went down. Hawkeye stayed at the top of the stairs, watching. The basement smelled like wet concrete and something else. Something I couldn't identify. I swept the flashlight beam across the walls. The old water heater. The boxes of Christmas decorations I'd been meaning to sort through since my mother died. The workbench John built with his own hands. The stain on the concrete floor that never came out, even after I scrubbed it with bleach 3 times. And then I saw it. A corner of something sticking out from behind the old furnace. Not something I'd put there. Something rectangular and flat, wrapped in plastic. I pulled it out. It was a box. A metal box, the kind you buy at an office supply store for keeping important documents. It was new. The plastic hadn't yellowed yet. The lock was still intact. I didn't have a key. I tried to remember if John ever mentioned it. If he'd ever said something about a box, about important papers, about anything he needed me to find if something happened. He didn't. He was a man who believed in carrying his own weight. He wouldn't have wanted to leave me with unfinished business. Unless the unfinished business was the whole point. I called my sister Beth the next morning. She lives in Portland, 3 hours away. She's a real estate attorney, which means she's good at 2 things: paperwork, and telling me when I'm being stupid. I told her about the box. There was a pause on her end. I could hear her shuffling papers, probably looking for a file, probably trying to decide how to tell me I was being paranoid. "Did you try the combination to his gun safe?" she asked. "He didn't have a gun safe." "Sarah, every SEAL has a gun safe. He had a gun cabinet. In the bedroom closet. It wasn't locked." Another pause. "That doesn't sound right, I know." I hung up and went back to the basement. This time Hawkeye followed me down. He sat next to the workbench and watched me try to pick the lock. I'm not good at picking locks. I'm good at drawing blood and suturing wounds and holding animals still while they get x-rays. Lockpicking isn't in the job description, but I tried anyway. I used bobby pins. I used paper clips. I used a small screwdriver I found in John's tool drawer, the one with the chipped handle that he never threw away because he said it still worked. Nothing. And then, because I was frustrated and tired, and not thinking clearly, I hit the box with the hammer I'd used to hang a picture in the hallway last week. It wasn't hard. Just a tap. I didn't want to break it, but the impact must have shifted something, because I heard a tiny click and realized I hadn't actually checked to see if it was locked. I had just assumed. I had let my brain fill in the blank. The lid opened. Inside were photographs. Not of us. Not of anyone I recognized. But the setting was familiar. The house. The barn. The same 17 acres I'd been living on for the past 12 years. People I didn't know. Children. They were standing in front of the barn, smiling like they'd just been told good news. And in the background, just barely visible through the glass of the barn door, something that made me stop breathing, John's truck. The old Ford F-150 he'd been driving when I met him in 2005. The one with the dent in the fender from a deer he hit on Highway 26. The same truck he'd been driving the day before he died. The photograph was dated 2017. John died in 2014. I sat down on the basement floor. Hawkeye came over and put his head in my lap. The basement was cold. The concrete was hard. The photograph was still in my hand, and the timestamp was still 2017, and none of this made sense. But the most confusing part wasn't the photograph. It wasn't the impossible date. It was something else. Something I noticed as I sat there, staring at the picture. The children in the photograph were the same children who'd knocked on my door 6 months ago at midnight. The ones who asked if they could sleep in my barn. The ones who said their car had broken down and they didn't have any money and their parents were coming to get them in the morning. I let them stay. I gave them blankets. I made them hot chocolate. And when I went out to check on them at sunrise, the barn was empty. No trace they'd been there except an old blanket folded neatly on the floor. The blanket had my initials on it. SM Sarah Miller, the same initials I'd embroidered on my own linens 15 years ago, but I'd never owned a blanket like that. I spent the rest of that week avoiding the basement. It's not the kind of thing you tell people. I didn't call Beth back. I didn't mention it to my neighbors. I went to work. I drew blood from a golden retriever with pancreatitis. I held a cat while the vet removed a tumor from its ear. I called a client to tell her the results of her dog's biopsy were benign. I did all the normal things you do when you're trying to convince yourself something didn't happen. But Hawkeye wouldn't let it go. He started sleeping at the top of the basement stairs. Not in my bedroom, not on the couch. Right there, where the hallway meets the door, with his nose pressed against the crack. Like he was standing guard, like he was waiting for something to come up or something to go down. I should back up. There's something I haven't told you yet. Something I didn't want to think about, even as I sat in the vet clinic and pretended everything was fine. The children weren't just children. There were 2 of them, a boy and a girl. They looked about 10 and 12. The boy was taller. Dark hair, nervous eyes. The girl had a braid that reached her waist and a way of standing that made me think she'd been protecting him for a long time. They showed up at my door at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I remember the time because I'd just finished reading a book and was about to turn off the light. "Can we sleep in your barn?" the boy asked. His voice was steady. Too steady for a child asking a stranger for a place to stay. Our car broke down on the highway. Our parents are coming. We just need somewhere to stay until morning. I should have said no. I should have called the police. I should have done any number of things that a reasonable person would have done, but I looked at their faces and I saw something familiar. The same hollow look John used to get when he woke up in the middle of the night. That specific exhaustion. The one that comes from carrying something heavy for too long. I said yes. I walked them out to the barn. It's 100 feet from the house. John built it. He said it was for storage, for his tools, for the things he collected over the years that he couldn't quite throw away. After he died, I kept it clean. I swept the floor. I made sure the roof didn't leak. I didn't use it for much else. The children had no bags, no backpacks, no supplies. They walked into the barn and sat down on the floor like they'd done it 100 times before. Like they knew exactly where to sit. I told them I'd bring blankets. When I came back, the girl was sitting cross-legged in the center of the floor. The boy was standing near the back wall, looking at something. When he saw me, he turned around fast, too fast, like I'd caught him doing something he wasn't supposed to do. "Your barn is nice," the girl said. She smiled. It wasn't a child's smile. It was practiced. It was the smile of someone who'd learned to be friendly because the alternative was worse. I gave the blankets. They didn't say thank you. I thought that was strange at the time, but I told myself it was just the shock of the situation. Kids don't always remember their manners. It's not a character flaw. It's just being a kid. I went back inside. I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about the way the boy had been standing against the wall. Like he was blocking something. Like he was protecting whatever was behind him. At dawn, I went back out to check on them. The blankets were folded. Neatly. They'd swept the floor. I hadn't noticed any dirt or dust, but they'd swept anyway, leaving faint streaks in the concrete. The barn was empty. There was no sign anyone had been there, except for the folded blanket and the faint smell of something. Something I couldn't place. I walked to the back wall, where the boy had been standing. There was a loose board. I didn't think about it at the time. I went back to the house. I made coffee. I told myself I'd imagined the whole thing. It was late. I was tired. I'd been working too much. I didn't check behind the board. But after I found the metal box in the basement, after I saw the photograph with the impossible date, and the children who looked just like the ones who'd come to my barn, I started to think maybe I should have. 3 days after I found the box, Beth called me. Not about the box. I still hadn't told her about that. She called because she'd found something in John's old files, the ones she'd been going through for probate. A property deed, a deed that sold 17 acres of land to a corporation I'd never heard of. The transaction was dated 2015, Beth said, a year after he died. That's not possible, I said. You can't sell property when you're dead. Someone forged his signature. The photograph, the truck, the date, the children. I asked Beth to send me a copy of the deed. I didn't tell her what I'd found. I didn't tell her about the photograph or the children or the blanket with my initials on it. I told myself I was protecting her, that I didn't want to pull her into whatever this was. But the real reason was simpler. I wanted to know first. I wanted to understand what I was looking at before I made someone else look at it too. John had secrets. I'd known that for years. The way he'd flinch at certain sounds. The way he'd check every room before he went to sleep. The way he never talked about his time in the service, not once. Not even when I asked. I'd accepted it. I'd loved him anyway. But now I was starting to wonder if loving him had been a mistake. Not because he didn't deserve it, but because I'd let myself believe I knew someone when I didn't know anything at all. Hawkeye stood at the top of the basement stairs that night. He didn't whine. He didn't bark. He just looked at me, and I could have sworn he was waiting for me to figure it out. I didn't figure it out. Not that night, but I did something else. I walked to the barn, the same barn where those children had slept, the same barn John had built, the same barn with the loose board in the back wall. I didn't bring a flashlight. I didn't bring anything. I walked to the back wall. I pulled the board loose, and I found something I'd been missing for 12 years, a second box, smaller than the one in the basement. Rusted, the kind of old ammunition box John used to keep in the garage. The kind he said was for miscellaneous hardware and nothing else. I'd always believed him because why wouldn't I? He was my husband. He told me things. He told me he loved me. He told me he wanted to grow old with me. The box was heavy. I carried it back to the house. Hawkeye followed me, his limp slightly worse than usual. The weather was changing. A storm was coming in off the coast. The barometric pressure was dropping. My own knees ached. The aches of middle age. The aches of a woman who'd spent decades lifting animals onto exam tables. I opened the box in the kitchen. My hands were shaking. I told myself it was just the cold. Inside were documents, folders, photographs, letters, and a journal. A leather-bound journal with John's handwriting on the first page. If you're reading this, I'm probably dead. I hope I died the way I wanted to, in my bed, with you next to me. But there's a chance I didn't. There's a chance they found me first. I put the journal down. I couldn't read it. Not yet. The words were too heavy. They sat in my hands like something alive. I looked through the photographs instead. The ones at the top, they were pictures of John. Young John, in his uniform. Standing with other men I didn't recognize. In front of buildings I couldn't place. The dates on the back of the photographs were written in pencil. 2001, 2002, 2003, and then 2010. 2010 was the year John started sleeping badly. The year he started waking up in the middle of the night and going for drives. I'd always assumed it was just stress. We'd just moved to the farm. He'd just retired. He was adjusting. But the photograph from 2010 told a different story. It was a picture of John standing in front of a house. A house I didn't recognize. A house with a red door and white shutters. In the background, a woman was standing in the doorway, holding a child. The child had dark hair. The child was maybe 7 years old. The date on the back of the photograph was June 14, 2010, the same day John told me he was going to run some errands and didn't come back until the next morning. I flipped the photograph over. There was writing on the back. Not John's handwriting, someone else's. Thank you for everything, we won't forget. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know who the woman was, or why John was in front of her house, or why she was thanking him. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The woman in the photograph was the same woman who'd been in the first photograph. The one from the basement. The one with the impossible date. The one with John's truck in the background. The same woman who was standing in front of my barn with 2 children in the photograph that was dated 2017, 3 years after my husband died. I looked at the journal again. I opened it to the first page. They're not going to stop, not until I tell them where it is. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. But I promised her. I promised I'd protect them. And I keep my promises. There was no mention of who they were. There was no explanation of what it was. But there was a name, the name of the woman in the photograph, Maria, and there was a date, November 3, 2013. 11 months before John died, I called Beth again. This time I didn't hide what I'd found. I told her everything, the photographs, the journal, the children who came to my barn, the blanket with my initials. The truck that should have been in a junkyard but was instead in a photograph from 3 years after John passed. Are you sure it's the same truck? She asked. I spent 18 years with that man. I know his truck. Duh. Okay. I'm coming down there. Don't do anything until I get there. But I didn't wait. I went to the county clerk's office the next morning. I pulled the property records. I looked up the deed Beth had found. And I saw something I hadn't expected. The corporation that bought the land wasn't a corporation. Not really. It was a trust. A family trust. Named after a woman named Maria. The same Maria in the photographs. The sale was dated 2015. It was recorded in 2016. And the signature on the document wasn't just John's. It was also mine. I stared at the document. I'd never signed anything like that. I'd never even seen it. But there was my name, clear as day, next to John's. Someone had forged my signature, and that someone had known enough about me to know how I write, how I loop my letters, how I dot my I's. Something that only someone who had access to my personal paperwork would know. I went back to the house. I drove faster than I should have. Hawkeye was waiting at the door when I got there. He didn't bark. He didn't whine. He just looked at me and then looked toward the barn. I walked outside. The storm was getting closer. The wind was picking up. The trees were bending low. The barn doors were standing open. I'd closed them. I always closed them. I walked to the barn. The wind was howling now. I couldn't hear anything else. I stepped inside. The children were there. They were standing in the same spot I'd found them 6 months ago. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, the boy was looking at the wall. The girl was looking at me. "You found it," the girl said. "The box," I said. "You knew it was there." "We knew it was there," the girl said. She smiled that practice smile again. "We've been waiting for you to find it. That's why we came. Why didn't you just tell me?" The boy turned around. His face was pale. His eyes were tired. There were dark circles under them. "Because our mother said you wouldn't believe us," he said. "Who's your mother?" The girl stood up. She walked toward me. She was so small, so thin, so young. "Maria," she said. "She's the one who wrote the letter. The one we were supposed to give you when you found the box." The girl reached into her pocket and pulled out an envelope. She handed it to me. "Mom said you'd understand when you read it," she said. "She said you'd know what to do." The envelope was addressed to me. The handwriting was careful, feminine. The same handwriting I'd seen on the back of the photograph. The same handwriting that had written, "Thank you for everything." I opened the envelope. The letter inside was dated 2017, the same year as the photograph, the same year John was supposed to have been dead, and the first line said something I never expected. "I know you don't remember me, but I remember you. You saved my life. You and John saved all of us. And now I need to ask you to save us again. Wicks." I opened the door. I walked down the stairs. I went to the metal box in the corner, the one with the photographs. I opened it. I moved the photographs aside. And there it was. A second box, just like the letter said. Smaller. Older. Locked with a combination. I didn't know the combination. I didn't have time to try to guess. I hit it with the hammer, just like I'd hit the other one. The lock cracked open. Inside the box were documents. Official documents. Government documents. Documents with seals and signatures and dates that went back 20 years. And at the bottom, there was a tape. A reel of tape. The kind you'd see in an old video camera. I held it in my hands and didn't know what to do with it. That's when I heard the sound. A car in the distance, coming toward the house. The children were upstairs, alone, and someone was coming. I ran up the stairs. My legs burned. My lungs burned. I hadn't run like that in years. I burst into the kitchen. The children were still on the couch. Hawkeye was standing at the window, growling. "Get down," I said. "Both of you, get down on the floor." They didn't argue. They dropped to the ground. I crouched next to them. The car was getting closer. I could see it now through the window. A black SUV. No plates, tinted windows. "You told me you'd protect us," the girl whispered. "You promised." "I didn't promise. You read the letter. You know what's in the basement. You know what they want." The SUV pulled to a stop in front of the house. The engine idled. The doors didn't open. I grabbed my phone. I called Beth. "Don't talk," I said. "Just listen. There's a black SUV outside my house. No plates. I don't know who they are. Call the sheriff. Tell him there's an emergency. You need to get out of there," Beth said. "Sarah, get out of that house. Take the kids." "Run." "I can't run. I don't know where to go." The driver's door opened. A man got out. He was wearing a suit. He looked like he belonged in an office, not a farm. He walked to my front door and knocked. The same rhythm. 3 knocks. 2. 3. I stayed where I was. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. He knocked again, harder. The same rhythm. 3 knocks. 2. 3. "I know you're in there," he said. His voice was calm, professional. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here to help. I've been looking for those children for a long time. Their mother sent me. She's worried about them." I looked at the children. The boy was shaking. The girl was gripping her brother's hand so tightly, her knuckles were white. "He's lying," she whispered. "He's one of them. He's been following us for months. He hurt Mom. He hurt her." The man knocked again. "I don't have all day. I know you found the box. I know you have the documents. I know you have the tape. Give them to me and I'll leave. No one gets hurt." I didn't answer. He tried the door. It was locked. He walked around the house, looking in windows. I could hear his footsteps on the porch, on the gravel. He was looking for a way in. "Sarah," Beth said. "I can hear him. Don't let him in. I've called the sheriff. They're on their way. Just hold on. I need to get the children out of here. Don't go outside. Stay where you are." But I couldn't stay. I couldn't sit there while someone walked around my house and talked about hurting children. I don't have a lot of strengths. I'm not brave. I'm not tough. I'm just a woman who worked in a vet clinic for 23 years. But John taught me something. He taught me that sometimes you have to do the thing you're afraid of because no one else is going to do it. I stood up. The girl grabbed my arm. "Don't," she said. "Please. He'll hurt you. He hurt Mom. He hurt her so bad she couldn't walk. Please." "He's already hurting you," I said. "He's been hurting you for months. That's going to stop right now." I walked to the kitchen door. I opened it. I stepped outside. The man was standing by the barn. He looked surprised to see me. "Sarah," he said, "I've heard a lot about you. You're exactly how John described you. Get off my property. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want the tape, the documents. I don't want to make a scene. I don't want to traumatize the children. Just hand them over and we can all go home." "There's no we. There's no all. You're not welcome here," he sighed. He reached into his jacket. I thought he was going for a gun. I flinched, but he didn't pull out a gun. He pulled out a photograph. He held it up so I could see it. It was a picture of Maria, blood on her face, bruises on her arms, tied to a chair. "She's still alive," he said. "She's still breathing. But she won't be for much longer. Not unless you cooperate." I looked at the photograph. I looked at Maria's face. The same face in the photograph from 2010, the same face John had been standing in front of. "Where is she?" I asked. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere I can take care of her. She's in pain, Sarah. She's been in pain for a long time, and she has a lot of pain left to feel if you don't give me what I want." I didn't answer. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. The man took a step closer. I could see his face clearly now. He was middle-aged, gray hair, calm eyes, the eyes of someone who'd done this before, the eyes of someone who didn't feel anything anymore. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. "You're going to go back inside. You're going to get the tape and the documents. You're going to bring them to me. And then I'm going to leave. That's all. That's the whole thing. No one else gets hurt. The sheriff is coming." He smiled. "The sheriff is going to be very busy. There's a fire at the feed store in town, and another fire at the gas station, and another fire at the post office. By the time he gets here, I'll be long gone." I heard the sirens in the distance. Not the sheriff, the fire department. He'd planned this. He'd planned everything. "1 hour," he said. "I'll give you 1 hour, then I'm coming back. And if the children aren't in my car when I get here, I'm going to do to them what I did to their mother." He got back in the SUV. He drove away. I watched him go. I wanted to chase him. I wanted to do something, anything, but I couldn't move. I was frozen. The children ran outside. They didn't say anything. They just stood next to me and watched the car disappear down the road. Hawkeye came out of the house. He sat down beside me. He didn't look at the road. He looked at the barn, and that's when it clicked. The barn, the loose board, the photographs, the children's mother, the tape, the documents. Everything had been leading to this. I walked toward the barn. The children followed. Hawkeye led the way. The barn was cold. The storm hadn't broken yet, but the air was thick with it. The wind rattled the old boards. The children stood behind me, watching. I walked to the back wall. I pulled the loose board. The same spot where I'd found the ammunition box, but there was something else. Something I hadn't noticed before. A second compartment. Behind the first, deeper. Hidden? I reached into it. My hand closed around something metal. A key. An old key. The kind you'd use for a safety deposit box. "Do you know what this opens?" I asked the children. The girl shook her head. "Mom said there was one more thing. One more clue. She said you'd know what to do with it. I looked at the key. It had a number etched into it, 174, and a name. A bank name I didn't recognize. But when I looked more closely, I saw it. The city. Portland, Oregon, Beth's city. I went back to the house. I called Beth. She was already on her way. She'd left her office the moment I'd called. She was 30 minutes out. "Did you find anything?" she asked. "A safety deposit box. Portland. Number 174. I need you to meet me at the bank." "I'm on my way." We hung up. I looked at the children. They were exhausted. They hadn't slept. They hadn't eaten. I made them food. They ate. I gave them blankets. They wrapped themselves in them. "We have to move fast," I said. "He said he'd be back in an hour. That's not much time. Can we come with you?" the girl asked. "No, you're staying here." "You can't leave us here. What if he comes back?" I didn't have an answer to that. I looked at Hawkeye. He looked at me, and I knew what I had to do. "Okay," I said. "You're coming with me." We loaded into my car, an old Subaru Outback. The engine turned over with a cough. I'd been meaning to take it to the mechanic. I'd been meaning to do a lot of things. We drove to Portland. It took us an hour. We didn't talk. We just drove. The bank was closed. But Beth had called ahead. She knew the manager. The manager owed her a favor. We met her in the parking lot. "This is highly irregular," the manager said. She was a small woman with glasses and sensible shoes. She looked at the children. She looked at me. "You have the key?" "I have the key." She led us into the building. The children stayed in the car. I didn't want them to see what was in the box. I didn't know what was in the box. The manager led us to the vault. She opened the safety deposit box. Beth was beside me. We pulled it out. It wasn't heavy. It was light. Too light. I opened it. Inside was a letter, and a key, and a USB drive. The letter was from John. "Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth. I'm sorry I had to keep secrets. But I had to protect you. If they knew you knew, they would have come for you too. They came for me. They've been coming for me since 2011. Maria's husband was killed. Her brother was killed. She and the children escaped. Barely. I helped them get out of the country. I helped them get new identities. I thought I'd done enough. But they found her again. And they found the children. And they found me. I'm not dying from cancer. I'm dying from something they gave me. Something I can't prove. Something that doesn't show up on tests. But I know it's there. I've known since 2013. Everything I know is on the USB drive. Names, dates, documents, proof. It's enough to put them away. It's enough to protect Maria and the children. But it's not enough to save me. I love you, Sarah. I've always loved you. And I'm sorry for what I'm about to do. John, I handed Beth the letter. I couldn't read any more of it. "We need to get this to the authorities," I said. "Now." Beth looked at me. "Sarah, he said they killed Maria's husband. He said they killed her brother. Do you know who they are?" "I don't care who they are. I care about the children. And I care about Maria. And I'm not letting them hurt anyone else." We walked back to the car. The children were sitting where we'd left them. The girl was reading. The boy was looking out the window. "We have what we need," I said. "We're going to the sheriff." "Can we call Mom?" the boy asked. "She's been trying to reach us. She doesn't know where we are." I looked at Beth. Beth nodded. "Let's call her," I said. The boy pulled out a phone. A burner phone. He dialed a number. It rang once. Twice. 3 times, then someone answered. But it wasn't Maria. "Thank you for calling," a man's voice said. "We've been waiting for you." The line went dead. The boy looked at me. The girl looked at me. Hawkeye let out a low growl, and somewhere in the distance, I heard sirens. The sirens weren't coming for us. I knew that as soon as I saw the lights. Red and blue. Flashing. Getting closer. The man in the suit had found Maria. He'd found her, and he'd called the police on her, made her look like the criminal. "We can't go to the sheriff," I said. "Not now. Not like this." "Then where?" Beth asked. "I don't know. But I know someone who might." I drove back to the farm. The children were silent. Beth was silent. Hawkeye was watching the road. When we pulled into the driveway, I saw something I hadn't expected. There was a car in front of the house. An old sedan, faded paint, rusted fenders. And standing next to it, leaning on a cane, was a woman I'd never met but recognized instantly. Maria. She looked at me. She looked at the children. Her face broke. The children ran to her. She wrapped her arms around them. She kissed their foreheads. She held them. "You made it," I said. "You got away." "I got away," she said. "I've been trying for months. They kept finding me. They kept moving me. But I got away." "How did you know we'd be here?" She looked at me. Tired eyes, weary eyes. But there was something else there too. Something like hope. "He told me," she said. "John, he told me that if anything ever happened, I should come here. He said you'd protect us. He said you'd know what to do." "I don't know what to do. I have a USB drive and a letter and a man in a suit who's threatening to hurt my family." Maria held out her hand. "Let me see the letter." I handed it to her. She read it. Her eyes moved across the page. Her face changed. She handed it back. "He wanted you to have this," she said. "Not just the USB drive, the letter. He wanted you to understand why he did what he did. He wanted you to know it wasn't your fault." "My fault?" "He didn't die from cancer. He died from something they gave him. Something he was exposed to while he was protecting us. He knew it was going to kill him. He knew it from the moment he was exposed. He chose to protect us anyway. He chose to die so we could live. I know. It wasn't your fault, Sarah. It wasn't your fault you didn't know. It wasn't your fault you couldn't save him. You saved me. You saved my children. You saved all of us." I didn't say anything. I couldn't say anything. The weight of everything she'd just said pressed down on me. "We need to do something about that USB drive," I said. "We need to get it to someone who can use it." "I know someone," Maria said, "a journalist. She's been helping me. She's been looking into this for years. She's been waiting for proof. Can she help? She's the only person who can." We went inside. The children were asleep on the couch. Hawkeye was lying next to them. Maria sat at the kitchen table. Beth made coffee. I opened the USB drive. There were hundreds of files. Thousands. Names, dates, documents, photographs, video. The journalist had been looking for this evidence for years. It was all here. Everything John had been trying to protect. "The man in the suit," I said. "Who is he?" Maria didn't answer. She just looked at me. Her face was blank. Her eyes were empty. "Maria. Who is he?" "He's someone who wants the tape. Tell me who he is." She looked at the children. She looked at me. She looked at the photographs on the wall. "The photographs of John. He's my husband," she said. "He's the man I married. He's the man I trusted. He's the man who took everything from me." I stared at her. I couldn't make sense of it. "He's your husband?" "He was. Before, he was the man I married. He was the man I loved. He was the man who helped me escape. He was the man who helped me hide. And then something happened. Something's changed. He wanted power. He wanted control. He wanted to hurt people. And I couldn't stop him." "He took your husband and your brother?" "They're the same person. They're all the same person. He's been wearing different faces for years. He's been playing different roles. He's been trying to destroy me." I looked at the USB drive, at the evidence, at the proof. I looked at Maria. She was crying, quietly. She didn't make a sound. She just sat there and let the tears fall. "I don't know what to do," I said. "I don't know how to stop him." Maria looked at me. Her face was wet. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. "The tape," she said. "The one in the basement. John made it. He recorded everything. He knew they were going to come for him. He knew they were going to kill him. He wanted to leave a record of what they did. A record of who they are. We need to watch it. You need to watch it. And then you need to give it to the journalist." I walked to the basement. Hawkeye followed me. I opened the box. I pulled out the tape. I took it to the living room. Maria and Beth followed me. The children were still asleep. Hawkeye sat next to me. I put the tape in the old VHS player, the one John had kept in the closet, the one I'd never touched. The screen flickered. John's face appeared. He looked tired. Older than I remembered. He was wearing his old Navy SEAL uniform. He was sitting in front of a camera. "Hello, Sarah," he said. "If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. I've known for a long time that I was going to die, but I wanted to leave you a record." The tape played. For an hour, he told us everything. The names, the dates, the documents, the proof. And at the end, he said something that made me understand everything. Sarah, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you. But I knew you'd understand. I knew you'd forgive me. Because you're the strongest person I've ever known. And I love you. I've always loved you. The tape ended. The room was silent. Nobody said anything. And then the lights went out. The house was dark. I didn't move. I couldn't see anything. The storm had arrived. Rain pounded against the windows. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Somewhere outside, a door was banging. The barn door. I heard footsteps on the gravel. He's here, Maria said. Her voice was calm. He knows about the tape. He knows we watched it. He's coming to take it. Get the children, I said to Beth. Take them to the basement. Don't come out until I tell you. Beth moved fast. She'd always been the practical one. She could act while I was still thinking about acting. She went to the living room, woke the children, guided them down the stairs. Hawkeye stayed with me. Where is the tape? Maria asked. The tape is safe. You need to give it to me. I can protect it. You can barely stand up. She looked at me. Her eyes were fierce. I can still fight. The footsteps stopped. They were right outside the front door. He was waiting. I opened the door. The man in the suit was standing there. His hair was wet. His face was pale. His eyes were hard. Maria, he said. Michael, she said, I've been looking for you. I know. Give me the tape. I'll let you go. I'll let everyone go. Just give me the tape. Maria didn't move. I didn't move. I know what happened, she said. I know who you killed. I know what you did. And I know what you're trying to do now. You don't know anything. I know everything, John told me. He told me everything. And I have proof. He stepped forward. He was close to her now. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at her. Your husband was never kind, she said. Your brother was never kind. You killed them. You killed them, and you took their faces and you used them to hurt people. He looked at her. Something changed in his face. Maria, he said, I loved you from the moment I met you, and you left me. You left me to rot. I left you because you were hurting people. I left you because you were becoming something I didn't recognize as. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. He reached into his jacket. I thought he was going for a gun. I was ready to stop him. I was ready to do something, anything, but he didn't pull out a gun. He pulled out a picture. It was a picture of John, the same picture I'd seen in the basement. John's truck, the house, the children, the impossible date. Your husband, he said. Your husband was a good man, a better man than me, and I killed him. Maria didn't flinch. He was dying anyway, she said. You didn't kill him, you just made it worse. I made it worse? I gave him something that killed him from the inside out. I watched him suffer, I watched him fight, and I did nothing to stop it. You're a monster. I'm a survivor. I heard a sound, behind him. In the darkness, a small sound, a child's voice. Daddy? The man turned. His face changed. All the hardness, all the anger, all the violence. It just vanished. A girl was standing in the doorway of the barn. The same girl who'd come to my house months ago. The same girl who'd slept in my barn. The same girl who'd asked me to protect her. Anna, the man said. Anna, I've been looking for you. The girl walked toward him. Slowly. She wasn't afraid. The boy came out of the barn. He was holding a phone. Don't move, the boy said. I've been recording everything. Everything you've said. Everything you've done. The man froze. The police are on their way, the boy said. They know everything. The man looked at Maria. Maria looked at him. It's over, she said. It's finally over. The man fell to his knees. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just wanted to protect you. I just wanted to protect all of you. Too late, Maria said. It's too late for sorry. The police arrived 10 minutes later. They took him away. They took Maria and the children to a safe house. I gave them the tape. I gave them the USB drive. I gave them everything. I sat on my porch that night and watched the storm roll in. Hawkeye lay next to me. I thought about John. I thought about Maria. I thought about the children. I thought about Michael. I thought about all the people who'd been hurt by something they couldn't control. I thought about the photograph. The one with the impossible date. The one that had started everything. I never found out who took it. But I didn't need to know. I knew enough. I knew that John had been trying to protect me. I knew that Maria had been trying to protect her children. I knew that Michael had been trying to protect something he'd lost. And I knew that sometimes the people we trust are the same people who hurt us the most. The storm cleared. The stars came out. Hawkeye slept. I went inside. The children were safe. Beth was asleep on the couch. I looked at the photograph again. The one with John's truck in the background. The one with Maria and the children. The one that was dated 2017. Maybe it wasn't real. Maybe it was a trick. Maybe it was something else. But I kept it anyway. I put it in a drawer, in my bedroom, next to John's watch, next to the letters he'd written me, next to everything I had left of him. I went to bed. Hawkeye followed me. He climbed onto the bed and lay at my feet. I closed my eyes, and I slept.